رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Inshallah, today we'll continue talking about the life of Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu, and in his era we started talking about the economic system that he was implementing, or the financial policies and institutions that Uthman bin Affan established or continued, that was started from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then Abu Bakr and Umar. And last week we briefly gave some definition about the idea of what is an economic system. When we say an economic system, it is actually collection of the funds and then the distribution of those funds. That's the main idea regarding the economic system. And we talk a little bit about many a times, especially in current time and era, when capitalism is the one that is ruling most of the world, people kind of get mixed up about the economic science and economic system. Science is more about how you develop or increase the production and all those things, which is something part of a civilization of any nation. That's not limited to a religion or the deen. But the thing that is related to the deen is a system, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and we follow the system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now, talking about the time of Uthman bin Affan, we talked mostly last week regarding the collection of the funds. Because at the end of the day, when you are running a state, you require funds for that. And because of not seeing the true Islamic system in place for over a century or so now, we have been away from really knowing how does Islam work as a whole. And it has become part of the books mostly. It's not in practice. So it is important for us to be prepared for these kind of knowledge, and it is important for the Ummah to get back to it, because that's what the world requires today. The world is at the brink of so much atrocities and destruction, to say will not be wrong, because of the absence of Islam in the lives of the people. And when I'm saying lives of the people, I'm not talking about the individuals, rather on a societal level. Now, so in the time of Uthman, we talked about how he was collecting the different funds that come into the state. That includes, for example, the ghanima, which is the spoils of war, which includes the fay also, kharaj, ushr. Kharaj is the tax on the land. Ushr is the zakah on the produce that comes out of the land. That's only for the Muslims, and non-Muslims do not pay ushr, by the way. Which is ushr literally means 1/10. So the 1/10 of the produce, when it exceeds a certain nisab or threshold, the Muslims have to pay the zakah on those produce. Now non-Muslims do not pay. Remember we talked about that. They pay jizya. If you really look at the jizya is a much smaller amount compared to what the Muslims pay in zakah and the ushr. Okay. So now, going back to the subject, so that's what we talked about. But there's another kind of a tax which is actually referred to, the one which is about the ushur. Ushur is on the tijara, on the when you are taking a product out of one country to another country, or the products are coming in. In Islam in general, there are hadith that talks about the maks is haram. The one who collects the maks. Maks is a tax that people collect. It's not allowed. But that's very specific to when they used to collect the tax. You know, even sometimes we probably see some or read some historical books, and we see that if you are passing certain borders, you have to pay certain tax. Whatever you bring in or is taken out. So that's the maks that I was referring to. And that's what it refers to nowadays. We call them customs and duties and all those things. Now in Islam, if other state is applying certain amount of tax, so reciprocity is allowed. When I'm saying reciprocity, which means is if they are applying 10%, then you apply the 10% on them as well. So for example, you are taking the product out, they're applying 10%, okay, then they will bring the product, you apply 10% as well. So it's more of a cancelling out. It's not the maks that is referred to. And that was started in the time of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh, because that's the time when we find that the Islam started spreading rapidly. And Uthman bin Affan, he continued. So the reason I am talking about one by one the different ways of the funds that come into the state, so we understand that It's not just a state that runs on donations. You know, sometimes people think of it, whenever they think of Islam or something, oh, it's like a welfare state. We will be, and whenever an issue comes in, right away we start thinking of, okay, let's bring a box and start collecting donations. And in our lifetimes, I'm probably older than most of you here, in our lifetimes what we see is that the boxes that were put outside the masajid or outside institutions or organizations about the ummah's need, you don't see that decreasing. Those boxes are continuously increasing. On contrary to that, the other states, which are not run by Islam actually, but they have some ideology they're implementing. So when something happens, for example, here if any kind of a earthquake or something happens, or a Katrina kind of a situation happen, what happens? It says rights attack. And majority of the issues are solved by that. Of course, there will be hardships for the people and all those things, and people still on an individual level, they do give donations whatever they can. But the biggest portion is taken care by the state right away, because the state has funds, right? And I know a brother here who's sitting here, mashallah, he's involved a lot in charity work, yeah? And you know that in the charity work, you continue to collect money. And still, you always find yourself in a situation you can't do it. Like for example, the situation in Gaza. I know a brother who went on a humanitarian reasons to help out the brothers and sisters in Gaza. He himself says, what we do is not even an ocean in the drop in the ocean. It cannot solve. You cannot just solve the problem by continuously doing the patchwork and thinking if you just pour money, the problem will be solved. Because we see that bombs are dropped. The solution is not the money. Solution is not if you are full, then the bomb will not drop on you. See what I'm saying? So we have to understand the problems properly also. So anyways, that's on my topic today. I'm kind of mixing up because I have to give another lecture tonight somewhere else. So that's where I have to talk about these issues. But here, when talking about the economic system, a state has its own funds. And a state actually has a lot of fundings. If you start looking at what does it mean by ushur, what does it mean by ashar, the ushur. Ushur is the taxes that you're taking from when the products are going in and out of the country, which is about 1/10 paid on the trade goods. Now, about kharaj, for example, if you take the example of kharaj in a country like Pakistan, for example, or India, these are the lands which were kharaji lands, because Muhammad bin Qasim entered and he opened the land for Islam. Now, these lands are in reality are agricultural, not only agricultural, one of the most fertile lands in the world exists there. Specifically, the Punjab province or the Kashmir area. These are one of the most fertile lands that you have. Now, imagine the amount of kharaj that you can collect. Imagine the amount of ushur that you can collect. And there are brothers who have done some calculation. And that's more than sufficient to run a country, actually. But what happens here is, we have feudalists who are running the lands now. The feudalists are doing it. First thing they do, they try to make everything tax-free for the ones who are doing the farming. All the equipment they bring in, if they bring in from outside, they become tax-free. So the laws, because man-made laws are there, so they make the laws that benefits those few who have the power, who are ruling. So they look for their own benefits. Anyways, so that's the ushur is another one. Now, today we'll talk more about how it was spent, and some of it I'll talk about the numbers, for example. Now, the amount of income that was coming in the time of Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu through the lands was 9 million dirham. Okay? 9 million dirham is equivalent to, I did the calculation here, it's about 26,550 kilogram of silver. That's just coming from the land that was given to the people, and then they are giving the kharaj. Okay? From Umar time. And from Umar to Uthman, and that will show us the expansion in the time of Uthman. It went from 9 million dirham to 50 million dirham. Okay? And 50 million dirham is equivalent to 147,500 kilogram of silver. That's just talking about kharaj, not talking about anything else. And today's price, that's equivalent to $250 million. More than that, actually. 228 million to be very specific. Last night I calculated the whatever the price of the silver was. It came out to be about $228 billion per year that was collected just from the kharaj. A million, sorry, not billion. $250 million. Now, so that's just to give an idea of how it was. And that's just some of the numbers, places that was given to, lands were allocated to different Sahaba or Tabi'in in the time of Uthman bin Affan. Abdullah bin Mas'ud, for example, he was given the land between two rivers of Bil and Sawad. And Ammar bin Yasir was Istania. And Khabbab bin al-Arad was given Sanabi, a village in Sawad. And the list goes on. I'm not going to be here just giving the names. Inshallah, if you guys have time, you can look into it about Uthman, and I can provide you some of the information if you need. Now, besides that, another thing that Uthman did was made sure, because the land expanded, number of people, inhabitants increased in Uthman's time, so the amount of zakah that was coming in increased. Okay, and zakah is another part of the funds. And that does not include only that today you and me only think of it because living in the cities and stuff. We normally think of zakah as what? Oh, I have $10,000, I have $5,000, $20,000, $100,000, whatever amount of dollars or rupees or money, whatever we have, or gold or silver we have, that's what we think of. But zakah is more than that. Zakah is on the cattle also, for example. You have sheep, you have camels, and think of the agricultural countries, and dairy and all those things are a big thing. You're talking about here millions and billions of dollars just come in the zakah from the cattle. So there's a very clear definitions about number of goats, for example, number of cows, number of camels, number of sheep, and so on and so forth, and their ages and how you give. Okay. Similarly, if somebody is running a business, there is zakah on business as well. So business, like for example, if I know a brother who is starting a business, so he has a business, for example, for car wash. Now, giving an example so you can understand how it works. So car wash still has like two kind of things you can have probably. One is, which is what is called the items that you just place in there. They're there all the time. I forgot the English terminology for that. Something which is the asset which is always It's not the investment, but if a store has racks, you're not selling racks. Capital investment. Okay. So if it's a capital investment, if you call that, there's another specific economic term for that, which is fixed assets. Yes, that's what I was looking for. So it's a fixed asset. This is not you selling. So on the fixed asset, you don't pay any zakah. But if you are selling things within the car wash, which could be air fresheners, for example, or towels, or this or that, those things are considered as your goods that you are selling. So then you look at the amount of goods you have after the year has passed. There is zakah on the value of the goods. Inventory. So on the inventory, you pay the zakah on the value. I'm using the word value specifically because it's not the amount that you were expecting to sell, neither it's the amount that you paid to buy the goods. Because you might have bought let's say you have the inventory that you spent 100,000. But the time that you're calculating, the value has probably increased to 125,000 now. Or it has decreased to 50,000. It could be either way. So you pay on the value. You don't pay on expected income that will be coming in. So just kind of give a taste of it that zakah is not just individuals, one. Second, zakah is collected. Today we have only thought of it, zakah is, I am going to pay zakah. Actually, this is the job of the state to collect the zakah. This is why Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu an, he had to fight the people who were not giving him the zakah. There were three categories of people, right? One said, well, they're not going to pay at all. Second said, well, we paid in the time of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're not going to pay you. Okay? And we will just pay by ourselves even. Even that was not sufficient for Abu Bakr. And the third kind of murtadeen were who left Islam actually. And he looked at all three categories as the people who were out of Islam. Okay? So collection is the key thing. And hence, Uthman, when those, for example, the example I'm going to use is horses, the camels, the sheep, or the cows, they were coming in, they need to be fed. So they need some grazing land. In the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Wadi Naqi was already assigned, which was 40 miles out of Medina, kilometers out of Medina, and it was about 80 kilometer area. Now, in that area that was dedicated, which is called Al-Kala. Kala is the area which is grazing land, which is left for public consumption and also for the zakat, camels, all those things. Remember the hadith we talked about that al-Muslimu shuraka fi thalatha. The Muslims are partners in three things: al-kala, wal-ma, wal-nar. That they are partners in grazing lands, in fire, which is the fuel, and in the water. Yeah. So there's a lot of. So this is another thing that he had to expand. So he spent the money. So enough grazing land is available for those zakat camels also. Now, similarly, we actually did not talk about that, but later on we'll talk further, which is there's a thing called public property, and that's called public property. And fuel or oil wells, for example, out there, or minerals, mines, which are out there. Individuals are not in Islam allowed to own those things. When I'm saying individuals, does not mean, okay, so we are 5, so we are not individuals. No, we still consider as individuals. It's not private property. Whether 5, 10, 100, or 1,000 people get together, they cannot own it. It's a public property, meaning governed by the state, and the benefit goes to the ummah at large. Now, you can start calculating in your mind automatically the amount of oil that exists in Saudi or Qatar or Iraq or Iran or Pakistan or this place or that place that belongs to the ummah. It's not Irani, it's not Saudi, it's not Pakistani, it's not Indian, it's not this or that. It belongs to the ummah. But the ummah has to be governed properly, which does not exist. Hence, we are literally like orphans nowadays. Ummah is like orphans. The father is not there. Anybody come and harm the kids if there is no protector for them. Okay, so that's about the grazing land. And so about the grazing land, when it was expanded, Ibn Qudama, rahimahullah, he mentions that what Abu Bakr did by expanding the land, or Abu Umar expanded the land, and Uthman did with regarding to allocating the grazing land, because that was well known among the Sahaba that it is allowed in Islam. Hence, it is considered as the ijma' of the Sahaba. It is a consensus among the Sahaba that it is something to be done. Okay. Now, about the expenditure, one of the main things that comes out to be expenditure, it's not the main thing, but one of the things is the salary of the Khalifa. Because at the end, he is a person who has dedicated all his life now. Even though he has businesses running, he cannot go and work now anymore. When we talk about Abu Bakr and Umar, Abu Bakr specifically talked about that, how he did that. He was going to work and Umar stopped him. Where are you going? When he became a Khalifa. And he told him, well, I have to earn my earning. And then Umar forced him, no, you cannot do that. We will find you a stipend for you. And then he took the stipend. And then after a certain time, he started going to work again. He said, well, the stipend you gave me was not sufficient for my family to feed. Then they increased the stipend a little bit. And when you look at the stipend, it's like a sheep and some legs or things like that. And then when Abu Bakr was dying, he actually returned everything that he took as a stipend by selling his land. Subhanallah. And Umar was saying, yeah, Abu Bakr, you are making it's very difficult for the people who come after you, because you are setting a bar very high. But Abu Bakr did that. Okay. And now when we talk about Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu, Uthman, as we know, he was one of the richest people of the Arabian Peninsula. One of the richest people. So he did not take anything from the Baytul Mal. Allah has blessed him enough. He said he doesn't need anything, so he did not take anything from them. And not only that, he spent from his own wealth on his family as well. his immediate family, and we'll talk about even the family who's not immediate. Indirectly, he was also paying to them. And that's one of the point of contention became for the people. They start talking about Uthman that he was favoring his family members. They called him as he was doing a nepotism, favoritism, which is also wrong. That's what I'm trying to hint, and inshallah we'll talk at the end also about that. Then, but this is part of the Baitul Mal expenditure that Khalifa should be given some salary or some stipend, if you want to call it. He's not a servant, to be very clear, like in a sense of employee. He's not an employee that today's time we think of it. He's the head of the state. Okay, then the governors, which are referred as the wali of the lands, different provinces, their job is similar, it's just for a specific province. So they also have to dedicate their life, hence they are also given some salary from the Baitul Mal. And then other workers that state hires, Baitul Mal has to pay them some sort of a funding or salary. Now, Uthman time, he also made sure that the Hujjaj that were coming to the Haram. Haram was not that big in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abu Bakr at the time was still very small number of people were there. In Umar's time it expanded, so Umar expanded the Haram. So some of the buildings around were taken down and the Haram was expanded so people can comfortably do the tawaf and those things. So in the time of Uthman, it increased further. Hence, Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh, it expanded the Haram as well, and there was funds that came from the state. Okay? Today, actually, everything comes from Hujjaj. Hujjaj, you want to do a Hajj every year, you see the amount of money you have to pay for the Hajj is continuously increasing. In my lifetime, I can remember, it used to be literally like around $2,000, you can do the Hajj. $2,000-$3,000. And now it has gone, the cheapest one is around 15,000 probably. And it goes to higher and higher. And if you look at now, it's basically you are living in a bigger than 5-star hotel and stuff, in the Mina tents and all those things as well. So the more you pay, the sweeter it gets nowadays. But anyways, but the thing is, at the end, everything is paid by the Hujjaj nowadays compared to at that time. The state came in and they funded that as well. Okay, and like the Haram, Masjid Nabawi also became too small. As we know, in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was basically made up of the stems of the palm trees and the leaves of the palm trees were used for the roof of the masjid. But the number of people who were coming for Salatul Jum'ah, you could not hold them. So hence, Uthman, he consulted, and this is one of the things about the Shura thing, yeah? We talked about Shura is about the thing which is allowed. So he consulted the Sahaba, the one who were more knowledgeable as well, to whether should we expand. And if we do, it means we have to take down the existing masjid. Okay? So they they agreed on that, and hence they had to take down the masjid that was existed, demolish the masjid, and they built a new masjid in the time of Uthman bin Affan, and the funds again came from the Baitul Mal as well. Okay. Then in the time of Uthman, the first navy was built. Okay, so naval force first built in the time of Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh. And when you talk about navy, you're talking about ships, and the boats have to be there. And the people have to be trained to be on the ship and go across. And hence, Islam started spreading more rapidly than before. Because before everything was connected to the ground. So you are using the horses and the camels or whatever rides you can take on the land, and you're connected to only that specific continent. You cannot go further. Now they expanded through the waters also. Okay? And hence today, one of the painful things for the people who carry the animosity towards the Ummah is, Ummah has spread across the world, and they exist, and they have the authority, in a sense, power. They control major resources of the world today. Right? Whether it's oil, whether it's uranium, whether it's all sorts of different minerals, and the maritimes as well. One of the most strategic maritime routes are the one where the Muslims are in majority. I'm guessing that you guys are aware of, like a couple of years ago, when in Suez Canal, a couple of oil tankers were stuck. And that was causing about 15 to 20% of the trade was impacted of the world at that time. You're talking about hundreds and millions and billions of dollars on a daily basis people were losing. Hence the prices shot up at that time for many goods. Similarly, the reason we hear all the time about the Houthis and all that, because they are the one, in the beginning part that goes through the Suez Canal, it comes from that area. So they have to pass through the Gulf. So whether it's maritime, whether it's resources on the land, whether it's the human resources, Ummah is rich. The thing that does not exist within the Ummah is to organize these resources and utilize them properly. But the problem here is now it's in the hands of the colonialists. They go and colonialize the lands and steal the resources, literally. And that's what's going on. So anyway, so Muslims in the time of Uthman ibn Affan, they built their first navy. And also many of the wells were dug up in the time of Uthman ibn Affan. As we know, the area, Arabian Peninsula, one of the problems of the Arabian Peninsula is the water, the fresh water I'm talking about. So in the time of Uthman ibn Affan, he dug up many of the wells which were given for the use for the benefit of the Ummah, as water, especially in that case, is public property. Yeah? You can have your own well, by the way, if you dig up in your own house, for example, and get the water. That's your water, that's no problem. You cannot say this is public now. But if that's the only water available in the area, then in that case, Imam or Amir al-Mu'mineen can make sure that this water everybody has to have the access. Because it's a public property now. Because the need is a basic utility for the survival of the people. Okay. In the time of Uthman, first thing that was done, the first time it was done was a salary was assigned for the mu'adhin as well, to give the adhan. Now, understand this thing though. Whether it's the mu'adhin, whether it's the imam, if they are getting salaries from the ones who are implementing the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then their job will be aligned with the goal of Islam directly. Many a times, especially the day and time we are living in, when the imams and the mu'adhins are hired in a manner that they are employees of board of directors, the shura, or the people, then they start guiding imams and them to talk about this or not to talk about that. See the problem here. And by the way, when there was a problem within the Khulafa later on in Banu Abbas, Banu Umayyah, and so on and so forth, you find some of the scholars like Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, he declined when he was given the job of Qadi al-Quda, the judge to the one who, you can think of the head judge among the chief judge, chief justice. And he declined. And he said to the Khalifa that I am not capable of that. And he insisted. And he said, look, it's either two. Either I'm not capable, then I should not be taking this job. If I am capable, I'm saying I'm not capable, then I'm a liar. Then I should not take the job either. See that? So, Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, and his life is, subhanAllah, is something to study. He lived through the time era of Banu Umayyah and Banu Abbas. And people used to think, oh, he's only against the Banu Umayyah. That was not the case. When Banu Abbas started ruling, then he took a stance against them as well. It's not the issue of Banu Umayyah, Banu Abbas. It's the issue was, if they're making mistakes, then this is the job of the scholar to correct them. Okay? Same thing you find in the time of Imam Malik, you find Ahmad bin Hanbal. All these scholars, they took the stances. See, scholars are something which are supposed to be guiding the ummah. They are the intellectual power of the ummah. And the rulers are the one who have the material power. And this is why, when these two people are good, the whole ummah stays good. When these two people are corrupt, the whole ummah becomes corrupted. It is important for these people to be good. And there's a whole talk I give on the whole issue of people sometimes talk about كيف تكون يولى عليكم that you have the rulers as you are. This is a weak hadith, and people use that a lot to justify the ill doings of the rulers. Put blame on the people. You are bad, that's why we are bad. That's not the case. And again, some other time we can talk about this. This is not the subject here. So anyways, when Uthman is giving the salary, it is a state that is governed by Islam, and they are giving the money for doing the job of Islam. Okay? Okay. Also, he finances, there's many other things that he did that, but I'm going to go to another aspect of today, inshallah. We'll finish the talk, and next week, inshallah, we'll talk about the judiciary in the time of Uthman also. The last thing I'll talk about, Uthman also spent on his relatives, and he gave the stipends to them. Now, remember that if the family member is among the categories that Islam recognizes them are the one who are supposed to be collecting the stipends. For example, he is from the fuqara or masakin, from the yatim. It doesn't matter which family the person belongs to. Obviously, the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not supposed to get a zakat. That's a separate story. But in general, now another thing about Uthman bin Affan is Uthman bin Affan, as a matter of fact, he spent a lot of his wealth on his family members. And that's what many of the people raised the issue against Uthman, that Uthman was using the wealth of the Baytul Mal, while Uthman did not use the wealth of Baytul Mal to just support his family members. Many of them were supported by Uthman himself because of the wealth that Uthman carried. And he was following the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while taking care of his family members. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَآتِ ذِي الْقُرْبَ حَقَّهُ وَالْمِسْكِينَ وَابْنَ السَّبِيلِ وَلَا تُبَذِّرْ تَبْذِيرًا. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and give to the kinsman, ذَا الْقُرْبَ. Qurba is somebody who's close to you, connected to you. حَقَّهُ. They have the right on you. Whatever right belongs to you, you have to give it to them. And then it says on the wabn sabil, and do not, wabn sabil is the wayfarer, and meaning somebody is he's traveling, and even though he's a rich person, but he has lost connection to his wealth, then even though he is one of the people who is a rich person, but he does not have access to the wealth, at that point is allowed for him to even use the zakah money. Okay, and then وَلَا تُبَذِّرْ تَبْذِيرًا, and do not waste your wealth in the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemns, basically. Okay, so, and wasting is also, of course, talking about the haram way. It is not allowed for us to spend the wealth. So Uthman bin Affan, when we look at historically the people that the family members, they were actually given the wealth from Uthman's own wealth. Okay, so inshallah I'll stop here, and if there is any questions or comments about the financial system that was implemented in the time of Uthman, I'll try to answer them, and inshallah next week we'll talk about the judiciary and the ijtihadat that were used by Uthman's time. Any questions or comments? Are we good? Yes. Yeah. 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 Yeah, Jazakallah khair. It's a good question, and especially when we understand that we are not allowed to deal with the riba. So there's no banking system. The current banking system, the way it works, cannot be existed in the time of in Islamic time, or in the future even. Then how do you take care of businesses, for example, right? So a few things to understand. In Islam, we don't deal with the virtual money, as today the banking system has screwed up the minds of the people. Because when you put the money, $1 in the bank, that dollar becomes $10. You see what I'm saying? What I say here? For example, let me give you the example of what it means by that. Huh? No, no, doesn't matter what account. If I put $100 in the bank, so what the bank does is 100. I'm giving a small number. Normally it goes to bigger numbers, right? So bigger number is the one that really see the difference, because you cannot really take all the money out. There's a limit. I think 250,000 is the max you can take out from the bank. So the other amount of money, it has to stay in the bank. Okay? So what bank does, the money that you have placed, 100, I'm using the number so for the ease of understanding. So out of $100, they will give $99 to Abdullah, for example. Now, where is he going to keep the money? He puts it back into the bank. Then another bank comes to the bank again. Out of that, 98 will be loaned again. And that cycle goes on. So what we started with 100 becomes 1,000. So in reality, that's a virtual money now, right? Anybody understand software engineering here? A little bit? Okay. So software engineering, you have virtual memory. You can have let's say 16 gig of memory, but you can assign more memory than the computer has. Because not all the applications are using the memory all the time. So you take your share and you continue to use it. That's why you have the swap and all those things. So same way they use that similar kind of thing in the money also. You have $100, but you're calling it no. Even though it's 100, but it can do the job of 1,000. So you think you have $100, you think you have $100, you think 10 people think they have $100, but they all 10 are not using $100 all the time. So they're probably using only 10 each. Since they're using 10 each, so 90 stays in the bank all the time, or it's spread out. You see? Huh? Yeah. So that's not going to exist, right, in Islam. But the true wealth exists, and the true wealth cannot just stay in few hands. It has to circulate. You know, in COVID, one of the things that we got was what is called stimulus checks. People get. Why? Because they wanted to move the economy. And to move the economy, the wealth has to be circulating. If you stop the circulation, that's a problem. Sorry, I'm kind of digressing, but it's important to understand this background for this. So, if the money is moving, even though it's not the money increase, all they did was they printed some more money and they distributed among the people. Actually, they not even print. They just say increase the number. Number is there now. You get the check, and the check gets deposited again. So what happens here is they want the economy to move because people are holding on to the money. Especially when the rich holds the money. What happens is he has enough that he can hold, does not put back into the economy. The poor, he will lose all his wealth, and at the point he is willing to sell whatever he has at any price because he has to survive. And the rich continues to buy at a lower price and then starts selling at a higher price. So he usurps the wealth of everybody. So Islam, what it does, Islam does not allow people to just hoard the money. You must invest the money, or money has to be, even if you save it, for a purpose. You can save for the house, you can save for your school, you can save for wedding, whatsoever. Saving is good. But saving for no purpose, that's hoarding. And Islam comes in, even though you have paid the zakah, by the way. So what it does is, it forces the people to push the money back in the economy. Since the money is back in the economy, now people have jobs, and people have access to the wealth, and the wealth that you're talking about, automatically people are getting that investments in. So those people have to invest, and you can get the money from them as an investment, for example, a business. And also a state can provide if a state had funds. The question that you asked in the beginning. So a state can provide if a state had funds. Of course, without the riba, nothing. Okay? Can I give the answer? Go ahead. I know I gave the answer at the end. Yes. 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 And he refused. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. 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 Systemic way. Yeah. There is. There are some examples. There was one example was actually the son of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh. He was in Iraq, and Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah radiallahu anh, he had to give 80,000 dirham to send to Umar bin Khattab from place he was in. Yes, it was a Baytul Mal money. And what their sons did was they were taking the wealth, and he told them, you can go and you can, if you want, you can invest while you're taking the money, and you can make the money and give the money to Umar bin Khattab. They went, there was more money than what Abu Ubaidah gave him, and they told him that, oh, okay, this is the money that he gave, or this is our profit. So he said, okay, so he loaned them basically like this, right? So Omar said, did Abu Ubaidah give this loan to everybody or just to you? He said, it's to us. So he said, and there were two sons of Omar. One was Asim and another was Abdullah bin Omar. So he said, okay, then you just because you're the sons of the Khalifa, you cannot just get the loan and others are not getting it. So he wants to take everything. Abdullah bin Omar, he just stays silent. He is one of the fuqaha of the Medina, by the way, Abdullah bin Omar. Asim said, but if we would have lost the money, we would have still paid the money that we took. Why are you taking our money? That's son talking to the father, a Khalifa, Amir al-Mu'mineen. And his response is, no, because not everybody got it, so you cannot get the special treatment. So one of the Sahaba, I don't remember Sahabi or Tabi, he gave the suggestion, I think it was Ali, suggestion that, why don't you do as a partnership between the state and him? So whatever profit has come, it will be distributed between the Baytul Mal and your son. And this is considered as one of the first sharika like this was done, and it's allowed. So there is an example like this, and there are other examples I cannot recall, but that a state can give you the money. As a matter of fact, in many cases, the state just gives, and you can do the business. Okay? About the Abdurrahman bin Auf example, I don't think Abdurrahman asked for money from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He only asked for, tell me where the market is. Show me the market, and I will take care of it from there myself. He did not want to be a burden. Yeah. Oh, sorry, the Sahabi who wanted to be supposed to be his brother, because Rasulullah was making a brotherhood, right? So he said, I don't want to be a burden on you. Show me the market. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the barakah in Abdurrahman's wealth so much, within a week or two, he got married. Yeah? And he had some yellow stuff on him. He saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah said, what's this on you? He said he got married. And subhanAllah, one thing I always remind people, look, he got married, Rasulullah did not even know. Today, if Brother Muhammad is getting his second wife or something, or get married again, he does not invite me, I'll be like, man, Brother Chaudhry, you did not invite me? Get angry at each other, right? Look, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he did not know Abdurrahman got married. Anyways, so he said he got married, and Rasulullah asked him, did you give her any mahar? And he said that he gave her mahar of equivalent or size of the pit of the date. So he already, mashallah, made enough. So Allah put a lot of barakah in his wealth, and the rizq comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We understand that. And rizq is not only money, rizq is everything that Allah gives us. Okay. Okay. Stop here, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.